right, Coach Strobel, defense coordinator at my alma mater, Eastern Illinois University. Coach, thanks for taking the time to sit down with me. I know you guys are in camp season and stuff like that, so I appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you having me on.
So I always ask people that come to Charleston, was there an adjustment moving to Charleston? Because I know Charleston and because Eastern just kind of pops out, right? Like it's right there in the middle, and Charleston's like a small town, but it's also kind of medium sized. So what was like an adjustment being in Charleston? Because it kind of is just that one lane road with fast food, it's college, bars, and stuff like that. Was there any adjustment, or was it like, oh, it's kind of quiet?
It's a not adjustment at all. So I mean, it's a perfect college town. And growing up in a small town myself, I'm from northern Michigan, so I mean, small towns is what we do. It's, I mean, to get anywhere is a couple hour drive. So the small town is home. We came from Morehead State University, so which is again a small town in Kentucky. And I've actually now, compared to some of the places I've been, this is a metropolis. I worked at Culver Stockton College in Missouri, which the population the town might be 2,000, and I was at Alfred State in New York. Again, population is under 1,000. So lived in some small towns, and the fact that there is fast food and there is a Walmart is a definite plus. So no, but small town, very easy adjustment.
Okay, yeah, because like I said, I went there, so I've had almost every coach on your guys' staff on here at some point. I always and that's one of the first things I ask them, especially because sometimes coaches come from bigger schools and stuff like that.
Absolutely. No, I completely, I know that. And no, for me, it's like, oh, this is home. This is normal.
Yeah. Because I grew up by Champaign-Urbana, between Danville and Champaign, like right dab in the middle. So it's about 45 minutes north of you guys. My high school was only 300 kids, like at Oakwood High School, and it was like 300 kids. Graduating class was 76. So when I went to Eastern, even for me, Eastern, I was like, oh my God, there's 20,000 people here. Like I grew up in a village of 500 or whatever. You had to drive to Champaign in order to have the big things and stuff like that. So that was still a 25, 30-minute drive. Even at Charleston, they got to drive 45 minutes to get to Champaign. And then like Mattoon right there, you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's still another town of 20,000, 30,000 people. And I remember it being like a culture shock of like being in my country, surroundings, and I go to Eastern in college, and you're like, oh, it's different races and stuff like that, and creeds, everybody from different backgrounds, and you're like, oh, okay. But then I took the long college route, so I was down there for a while, change your major a couple times. But like even the size of Charleston High School, bigger than my high school, it's all like, wow. So you can imagine my shock moving up to the suburbs of Chicago, like that right there was just
for sure. That's different.
Because my wife went to York up in Elmhurst.
Okay.
She went to Eastern. She got a job in Naperville. So in 2018, so Happy Life, moved up, and oh my gosh, trying to get used to the expressways. Naperville has 70,000 people. Elmhurst has that many, and you're just like, wow. Okay. All right. But we moved to Plano, and it only has like 11,000 people, and I'm like, this is my style right here. Like, right to my style. So, you talked about your different stops. Is this your second year at Eastern? I can't remember.
Okay. Going into year 2.
Okay. So what kind of sold you to come to Eastern? What was kind of to make you come?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd been the defensive coordinator at Morehead State for what was it? For the previous 4 years. I was at Morehead State for 6 years total. There was a head coaching change. I did get asked to stay at Morehead State, but throughout that time, that transition period, obviously calling around people that I do know, and Coach Brubaker is the director of football ops here. We had worked together, and they had a safeties job opening up. So I had met with, talked with him and talked with Coach Wilk, and even Coach Geyer at the time was the defensive coordinator. And was one of those things. It was just the opportunity to go to a bigger school, even
Mhm.
though Moorhead is FCS,
Yep.
they were non-scholarship. So just to be able to move up and have that opportunity, it was something that I wanted. And obviously talking with Coach Wilk and who he is as a person and all that kind of stuff fit me and my family, and what I was looking for. So we did make that decision and we came here, and we've been hitting the ground running ever since.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's
Yeah.
Coach Wilk's awesome. Because he's head coach University of Chicago,
Yep.
and where I'm at now, we had an alumni at our high school come back and help us out last year or the year before. Wilkerson coached him at the University of Chicago, so that was like my way to connect. I was like, well, he's at
I
Eastern. I
got
went to
you.
Eastern, have this connection. And
Yeah.
just listening to him, I'm like, oh, you care about where you're at. That's why he was at
Yes.
University of Chicago for so long. Because
Yep.
I know people at Division III, they either stay for a long time or for a very short time, and they try to go up very quickly.
Yep.
And for him to stay there for as long as he did, then go to Eastern and trying to do that stuff was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and I love your guys' staff. Your staff's awesome. Talking to them is just awesome, and it feels like as a staff, you guys embrace like the history of Eastern because it's a full. No offense to other sports, it's a football like school.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that was honestly one of the draws coming here, knowing the history of it, who's been here and what they've done here. Like you said, being a football school, Moorhead State is a very much a basketball school,
Hmm.
and it is what it is, and that's where they choose to put it, and I understand it.
Yeah,
So to be at a school that does care about football and have the history that it does have, definitely goes a long way for sure.
yeah, because I was there back in the day. If you were a high school coach, you could still like help out with spring ball, like come around and be around. And I don't know if there was rules against it at the time. I don't know, but just people didn't do it. But I did. Babers was there. Jimmy G was there,
Yeah.
and just seeing that part of it, I was around for Spoo, and you think about the history and like I know Eastern's like facilities, sometimes they compare them to other places, but there's still like an old school history, uh, and the small town feel. People too come out to the games, like just I call them townies. Like townies come
Yep.
out, and because like people don't know Charleston, it's one lane, it just pops out of nowhere. Like
Yep.
there's
Absolutely.
a college, then you drive for 2 minutes, it's gone. It just kind of pops up, and then it's gone.
Yep.
Um, so you came there, became the defense coordinator. What when you become a defense coordinator, if you're on staff already, do you have to sell kind of what you want to do, or is there a conversation about this is what we were doing? Can we blend it in with what you want to do, or can we make this overhaul change into what you
Yeah,
want to do?
that's a great question, and there's a lot to that. I mean, we might be able to talk about this just for an hour in itself, and because like you can answer that 100 different ways.
Yep.
And obviously, I came here to learn. As you know, being a coach, like if you ever think you know it all, you're wrong.
Right. Right.
And having the opportunity to come here and they did some philosophically and defensively, it was similar but very different from how I have done it.
Hmm.
And that's what I wanted. Obviously, being the coordinator for the last few years, I've coordinated at 3 different schools, and I've done really 3 different things at each one. So
Hmm.
I'm not married to a scheme in a sense. It's so I came here. I just wanted to learn and grow and just have that opportunity. And so we did some things like I said philosophically that I didn't do and or I hadn't done, and I learned. And so in terms of what we did at the end of the season, before I was even the coordinator, obviously we didn't have the year we wanted to have. For a variety of different reasons, whether it be players, injuries, coaches. I mean, there was a million things. So you just watch the tape, you watch it, and if you just why, and you kind of
Hmm.
ask yourselves, like, are we not doing things correctly? Is it techniques? Is it fundamentals? And there was a laundry list of things that watching all the games, what we did well, what we didn't do well, and then kind of what's the path going forward. So
Right.
whether I was the coordinator or not, um, that happened at the end of the season, and we started looking at ways how can we be more efficient, how can we be more effective, How can we use our players better?
Mm-hmm.
And last year we had a ton of injuries. Like, so how can we preserve players? How, like, you're getting into a bunch of stuff. So in terms of once I took over and Coach Wilk did give me the opportunity to lead the defense, it was meeting with the staff. And now again, I had a vision myself. Like, this is how I've done it. But it's very much not like I'm ruling with an iron fist. Like, this is how we're doing it. This is what I've done. This is what we did last year. This is what we did well. This is what we didn't do well. And how can we marry all of this and get things going in the right direction to allow the kids to play fast and make plays. At the end of the day, last year we didn't make enough plays.
Right.
Whether it be scheme wise, whether it be player wise, whether it be coaching wise, like, we just didn't do enough. The year before, they were number one in turnovers and all that, and we didn't do that. And a lot of the scheme was the same, and a lot of the players were the same. So there was just like, how can we be more efficient and more effective? And so that's what we did for the first couple of weeks. Is we just sat down as a staff and we kind of married it out of how do we want to identify ourselves and what do we want to be good at, and how do we get there?
Right.
And so that's a whole thing of players and scheme and marrying what we already have here and what can we do recruiting wise. You can't wholesale change it because you already have players here. So again, knowing we already got players here and we already recruited some players to come here, how can we best utilize them?
Right.
And at the end of the day, when we went through spring ball, it was very base, because one of the things that we didn't do well last year that we really identified was just basic fundamentals. We did not execute at a high level. And so that's what we talked about. And like, we put a huge emphasis on it, going back just to making sure, at the end of the day, it's all about tackling and turnovers on defense. If that's all you're talking about, that's really all that matters. Can you tackle well and can you take the ball away? And so that's what we did throughout spring ball, those 15 practices. It's just worked on those fundamentals so we can do the little things at a high level.
Right. I was curious because I was in that situation this year where our OC became a smart man, and it was back in early March. He took an assistant golf coaching stipend job, and like, you're a smart man.
Yeah, no doubt.
He'd been coaching for like 20 years, and he was kind of like, he needs a break. And like, we get it. I get it. So a head coach texts me and he goes, I didn't know. And he goes, hey, we got to talk tomorrow. And I was like, hey, okay. Cause I also do the sprint coach stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's about that. Brings me in, tells me, hey, he's stepping down. I'm like, okay. I was the O-line running game guy. I was heavily involved in the offense. We talk. And he goes, all right, you're going to be the offense coordinator. I was like, okay. And he goes, now we got to talk about what you want to do. And I wrestled with myself because I was like, do I change everything, terminology, what I want? Like, nothing wrong with what we did, but everybody has their own way of.
Absolutely.
And I battled with myself because it's different than you guys. Like, for us, some of our coaches are outside of our building. It's hard to get everybody together. They all have different jobs. So I had to sit down and be like, do I change everything? Do I change 70% of it? Do the plays just change? But I try to marry the terminology up to what it used to be, so they've heard it before. And then I was like, Steve, you're being an idiot. Think about the O-line first. Think about how we can make it simple on them, make it harder on the skill guys. And so I said, okay, we'll keep a couple run plays the same, use the same terminology, got a different O-line coach. I got moved to quarterbacks. I'm O-line coach quarterbacks, to today is day one. And so the funny thing was, I'm getting my quarterback warmed up. Other quarterback didn't come, so I have to play catch with him. And I have him keep scooting back. I'm like, well, I'm a lineman. When you get to like 15 yards, it's hard for me to get the ball to you, Like, you can't throw this far. But I was just curious because you have to wrestle with yourself of like.
Oh, absolutely.
And the big thing with me was.
No, 100%, because like, again, what you want to do, but there's so many moving pieces. I've got coaches, I've got players, and it's like, well, if one person knows it, then you've got to coach everything. And then the players are screwing it up because it was called this. And then, you just want to make sure it's even and there's a flow to it, but you also don't want to, not be able to do what you want to do as well.
Well, like a dumb example, I don't know if it's a dumb example, but like, I love the air raid offense, but it wasn't. But my head coach goes, "You are not passing the ball, 70 times. And I said, no, I want to run the ball, but I love the formation names. I love the passing plays. I think they're simple for high school kids. So I wanted to call them like early, late, like the formation names that Mike Leach used.
Yep.
But one of the things I said was, that's now I'm changing everything. I got to change all the formation names. If they've known them as spread, if they know them as trips, if they know it as whatever. So I kept all those names the same to try to help. Now, how they line up might be different. Like if he's on, he's off. Those are easy tweaks. So those were things I sat down with myself and I said, okay, let's keep that the same, but I'm changing the pass plays. So they have to learn the pass names. They have to learn the passing concepts. Quarterback, he's a runner. I'm forcing him to run this year. That's another tweak. How he lined up, we were a pistol lined up team. I'm going to be shotgun, like offset, like those type of things. Like that's what I want to do. But with the linemen, I said, okay, we're going to run inside zone. Here's the terminology for your blocking. And they go, Coach Steve, you've been telling us that the last couple of years. I'm like, yeah, nothing's changing for you guys. You guys are good. What's our pass protection names? I said, I'm keeping them the same. And they go, how do we block it? I said, exactly the same as you did. And the skill guys today was day one. They were like, well, why do we get all the changes? I'm like, because you're skill guys. You have the linemen have the most important job of anything out there. And so, but like you said, the other big thing is I had to coach up even the head coach. He told me what he wanted, but he was kind of like, you do what he goes, I'm here for if you need ideas, I'm here for if you need to bounce things off of me. He goes, but it's yours. So I have to like coach him up. I have to coach all the assistants up, and getting the head job, that OC job in March, and we start today. That's not a lot of time if you break it down at a high school level. And I coach all three sports, coach. I do football, basketball, softball. So like on top of coaching softball, I had to do that. And on top of that, you have a family. On top of that, you have this. So now I have to make sure that I coach all the coaches up, make sure it's all. And you know how it is. You have to have thing typed up of like, I want blocks defined a certain way. I want them to be called a certain way. Like you said, if you know it as a certain coverage is called a certain way, but they might know it as a certain way. Do you change it? Do you keep it the same? Because you got to be comfortable too. Like you can't forget, but
yes, absolutely.
It's a lot. So I was just curious because I was in the same boat. Because I was an OC before, but I was like 23, 24, and you think you know everything back.
I would say good. You're good and smart at that point in time. Oh, you're good and smart because you don't know any. My first defensive coordinator job, I was 24, and I just wish I could go back into time and just listen to me because it would be embarrassing. I believe I'd probably be ashamed of myself for what I was saying. But at that time, I was the smartest guy in the room. I could have told you that.
Oh, I was the smartest guy. I didn't practice the things that I thought that should have been practiced. So then you go to team time. You're like, why can't you figure this out? This is easy.
No, face. I'd just be like this the whole like. I would be embarrassed if I had to. So I guess it's good you can't, but it might be really good learning for me again to be like, wow, I've come a long ways.
Well, especially back then because when that have been like 2012. I know YouTube and social media was around, but it wasn't as big as it is now. So back then, you see, if you do see a clip, you do see something on TV. I was that guy like, oh, that's the same formation we do. They did that play. I gotta put that in.
Why not?
I was that guy that young. Now that I'm older, I don't mind seeing it in the off season, and then you try to mess with it. But like in season, and
keep it simple. Keep it simple.
I remember seeing something the Kansas City Chiefs did. I was like, we could, I think we could do that. And one of the assistant coaches was like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, yeah, but we could do it. Like, it's easy. And it's a Wednesday or something. And you're like, no.
Look at Pat Mahomes make this throw. Why can't we do it?
Yeah, or like RPOs. I thought RPOs back, are the easiest thing ever. And I look back and I'm like, I didn't practice it enough. Like, I just waited till team. Like, I'm picturing in my head, it's team. We'll just do it then. Quarterback makes the wrong read, and I freak out. And I think back to those times. I'm like, that was terrible. It's like this year we'll have an RPO period where it's like half line. Like you're just looking like just stuff that I wish I knew back then.
For sure. Yep.
So you make some of your changes. You seemed like like you said, you went to your coaches and like, hey, I kind of know what I want to do, but I want to get your guys' opinion on it with the staff. Would they step up and say, yeah, let's do what you want to do? Or do you have some guys that are like, hey, let's do this, but we're also good at this? How did those meetings go?
It was a little of both. Obviously it's the same staff that we had last year, one gone, and then we brought in a guy that had actually worked for me before. So obviously Coach Noel and I were on the same page in knowing like how I coach, what my vision was. And then it was, again, we had worked together the previous year, so we had already kind of spoke the same lingo, and we knew what we did wrong or did well and did bad. So, I mean, if you ask them, they might tell you different, but I thought it was really good in terms of it was cohesive, and we made the changes, and everybody knew the changes we were making and why we were making them, and what we were trying to get out of those changes. But then again, we did keep some of the stuff because we did some stuff really well. It's not like we were horrendous. We did things well, and we wanted to keep that going. And we do have a good nucleus of the players coming back. So, I mean, that was it. And I think we sat in here in my office for, a good 2 weeks straight and just kind of hammered it out. This is how, and this is why. And we did all those, asked the questions and made sure, everybody was speaking the same way and knew the vision of it. I think that was the biggest thing, no matter what you're doing, any place you're at, is if you get everybody at least understanding the vision, what it should look like and why it should look like it, and you can answer those questions, then you'll be all right. I mean, again, any scheme's going to work. If you want to run 3-4, if you want to run 3-3, you want to run 4-3, you want to run 4-2, like you can get examples of all of it working. But the biggest thing is everybody knows the hows and the whys and what's trying to get accomplished of it. And so that was the thing. The best thing of hashing it out and sitting in here is getting everybody on the same page, speaking the same lingo, and having the same vision. So like when we are talking, everybody knows, everybody hears it, and everybody knows the why. I think in today's day and age, and you talk about talking with players and the younger players, and like why. So as long as you can answer the why, then you're gonna be all right. Because if the why is not, those questions are gonna just keep getting asked, and there's where a lot of your issues are gonna come from.
That's I tell people I know I'm not old, like 34 is not old, but to me, I'm old, like coaching. And I tell younger,
absolutely.
And like my O-line coach, he's younger than me. It's like, he's super excited, his varsity debut of an O-line coach. And I tried to tell, I actually said that, I was like, make sure no matter what you say, even if they don't ask, you have to tell them why they're doing this. And I said, that's one of the biggest, there's a lot of changes. That's one of the biggest changes. I remember playing, in your mind, you're wondering why, but you never said like, well, why are we doing this to a coach? Like, And I told them that, I said, just make sure, like, hey, if you're doing whatever footwork, you're doing whatever, tell them why. Like, this is, even if they're not asking, because you're just saving yourself the headache of them turning around and being like, well, why am I doing this? And I found that way even today, like in the wide receivers go in and they're like, I'm changing up their stances a little bit. And they said, why? And I said, one, because we sucked at firing off the ball last year. So that's one. Two, we'll see press. So I want your hands up ready to go to fight. I don't want, wasted movement. I said, and then I'm a jerk because I've been around for a while. I'm like, and because I said so. Like I always say, I said so. And that's when they know me, so they start laughing at that. But as long as I tell them why, like, especially because I'm changing stuff, it's like, well, we've done this for 2 years. And I'm like, yeah. And we sucked at getting off on like we sucked at this, or we didn't do this. So guess what? We're going to do this every day. And my presentation this morning, I put on there, I love this saying, I said, no block, no rock. So I said, receivers, you can't block, you're not getting the ball. And some of them rolled their eyes, and I said, you think I'm joking with you? I hate the wing tee. I said, I will go double wing and run the ball every play. I do not care. And they go, well, why? And I'm like, because the team is more important than you or I. Like it's more important. And that's the why. They're like, well, why? Because of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, so you met, you're on the same page. you guys are lucky because you have spring ball to kind of get out there and
Yeah.
do it for the season. Did you have to walk around and make sure those things were getting done, or were you more hands off of like, I know this is going to get done and not worry about it?
That's another great question. A little bit of both. Like, so I guess I'm very blessed and fortunate with the way things shook out. I'm able to be just the defensive coordinator for the first
Mhm.
time in my life, where I've always coordinated and and was the safeties coach or coordinator, was the linebackers coach. So now I'm just a coordinator. We've got assistants at D line, linebacker, safeties, corners. And so I was able to actually walk around and go to different meetings. I would run different meetings. So I'd be able to run like, hey, we're gonna have the back half. So linebackers, safeties, and corners. We're just gonna meet, and now or it's gonna be linebackers and D line. And then I'd be able to run those meetings, and then or we just have indie meetings, and then I could go sit in the D line meeting room, and I'd be able to go sit in the safety meeting room and just be visible, and again make sure that the message is clear and it's all the same. And again, every piece defensively affects what the D line does, affects the linebackers, what the linebacker does affects the safeties. So again, that how important it is to make sure it's all streamlined and everybody's saying the same things and understands why are we spilling this, why are we boxing this, why are wrong arming, like all those things. Like, it's important because if the corner is playing outside leverage and giving up the inside, well, the safety better know that. And so those things, that was really good for me to be able just to go to different meetings and be in there. Because like I said, in the past, I was a coordinator, but I was just meeting with the safeties, and I'm talking to them about everything, but well, it doesn't matter. Like, they're only safeties. So when I'm like watching it as a coordinator and we're talking, all of a sudden I'm talking about D line play to the safety group, it's like, well, what does this mean for me? So that's been really good, and I was blessed to be able to do that all spring, and like I said, just be in every meeting and in position groups and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because like we said a couple times, it's important to coach the kids and the coaches up. Like, even though you trust them, like, still to make sure of like, and you might be there to help. Like, if something's going on, you see something they don't, because you know how it is. If you're a D line coach, you got 4 guys out there. Maybe you miss what this defensive end did. If you got these linebackers along with the safeties, like, hey, why were you looking here when you were supposed to be looking there? What your stance, or how are you supposed to like? So that's super important. And then it allows your assistant coaches to hear you say it, and they're like, oh, see, we are on the same page. We are
Absolutely
doing those things. Because my first time being the OC when I was young, I didn't have to coach anything, so I got to do that. And then then the next year, quarterbacks coach left, so I do quarterbacks. This year, I still have to do quarterbacks, but today was day one, so I think maybe my anxiety was like, let's make sure they're all doing things right. So I told the quarterback to get water, and I'm looking around, making sure like it's all going the same way and stuff like that. But our head coach doesn't have to coach a position, so he's like, don't worry, I'll walk around and make sure that everything's getting done. Because I know Coach Wilkerson's probably kissing babies and shaking hands at some point. I always laughed at that. Sometimes Babe Ruth wasn't coaching; he literally was talking to people. I'm like, oh, that's the best job ever.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sorry, my brain is fried and I forget where I was going, jumping down rabbit holes. So you talked about going back to basics, like we have to do basics. So I know spring ball is a little different. Was there ever a point where you felt like you had the basics and you wanted to move on, or was it a strict like, this is our covered, this is what we're doing, we're not moving forward because we have to be good at this? Because I have a hard time sometimes, like, we're going to be simple, then you get excited because they get it, and you're like, oh, I can start doing this, and then things start to fall apart. How do you keep yourself in check to not continue to move?
I'm notorious for that. Like, I'm a coverage guy, I'm a safeties guy, so like I can give you 6 million 3x1 checks. Like, oh yeah, let's do this. Let's spin here. Let's do this. Luckily, and I told the staff like we're doing this, and once I start getting crazy, just tell me to stop. Like, we're doing this. We're going to back to fundamentals, and we did. And it was a very, very vanilla, very basic, spring ball. And we had, and it's on my board actually, like we had over here tackling drills, and it's a list of like all the drills that we could do. pursuit drills, takeaway drills, block destruction drills. And so we would every single day we'd sit in here as we practice it or practice prep.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, tell me what tackling drill we want to do, and we just pick it from the board. Tell me what pursuit drill we're going to do. And so we made sure every day we were doing some form of circuit. We did 10 to 15 minutes of circuit time every single spring ball practice. And again, because those are the things that we didn't do well. And so we're going to be very conscious about making sure we do this. And that was one of the things that we did in the winter time was like, we came up with all of our tackling drills. Like we got, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 tackling drills that we wanted to use. Yeah. And so make sure we use these tackling drills at some point in time. We've got 2, 4, 6, they got 8 pursuit drills. So we're going to make sure we just pick it off the board. Which one haven't we done yet? Add it into the practice plan. And so we were very conscious of it. And that was the most important thing. Like, again, scheme, there is a lot to it. I'm not going to say, but there is, are you going to execute it and you're going to be able to make the tackle when you get there is just as important.
Right.
And so that's what we did. And I stand by it and it was really good.
Well, is that the same mindset you'll take into the season as you go forward? Because I know you guys are able to do stuff in the summer. I know FCS is different at some levels. Is that still going to be the mentality in the summer going into the season and slowly go?
No, so now it'll be so we are here. We reported last Monday. So this is whatever would be the second week here. They've about 7 or 6 workouts in now. So we do get to meet with them. We got 30-minute meetings for the week. 1 30-minute week or 1 30-minute meeting per week. That plus they've got their workout times. But now we'll get into more schematic stuff. Those meetings will be definitely very heavy on what we want to do and the vision schematically. And then as we get into camp, the beginning of camp, hopefully we'll do a lot of schematics over the summer. Camp, the very beginning of camp will be very technical. And then as you start to transition, then it's marrying the technical plus all of that. So we do hope to get a lot of install done now. That way, at the beginning, when we start to put the pads on, we can work some of those fundamentals again and kind of marry what we did over the summer and as we kind of head in.
What's your message to the defense to say, like, hey, guys, 2 years ago, this team had a lot of takeaways, stuff like that. You are going back to the basics, but is there any, mottos or anything of, this is what we want to be or anything like that to get the mojo moving, like the juice, like, hey, this is how we get to this level of we want to take the ball away. We want to, make sure, we're not giving up all these points. Is there anything like that you go into?
Yeah. Well, philosophically and motto wise, the motto is for me has always been, I learned it when I was young. I believe it was Chris Ash when he was at Wisconsin and I loved it, is put the ball down. I don't care where, I don't care situation. Because one of the things I think affects football, defensive football, is momentum. Mm-hmm. And when things start to go bad, things start to kind of ravel or unravel. And it's put the ball down. Just give me one more play and we'll see what happens. Forget it. Just one more play. If we give up, a 98-yard run, but we tackle them at the 1, give me one more chance because we might get a fumble. We might just give me one more play. So the motto is put the ball down. And then from there, philosophically, it's play fast and play physical. You've heard that probably a million times. We kind of quantify it though. Play fast is giving us our relentless effort for 5 seconds. The average football play is 4 to 6 seconds. Yep. It's just 5 seconds of you quantify it. So if someone's around the building and is 5 seconds, they know we're moving.
Yeah.
And then playing physical football is a physical sport. Defensive football is, if you are a physical team, it makes the scheme is irrelevant. The play is irrelevant. You can turn on the tape and watch really physical, dominant defenses, and it's sometimes that's not what it's supposed to look. Yeah. But if they flatten the tackle and sack the quarterback, it's irrelevant what the scheme was or what the blitz was if they go 100 miles an hour. So we just talk about that, and being physical is a defensive presence that we try to embody, top to bottom. So play fast, play physical. But again, the motto of it is just put the ball down and go.
Over time, I remember growing up, it was if the defense gave up like 14 points, it was a really bad game. Like you're only supposed to give up like 0 to 7. And
Yep.
So there's two phrases I've heard over time is culture. Another one I've heard is bend, don't break. Like, hey, they have a bit like the announcers, they have a bend, don't break defense. And I always thought about that. I'm like, I don't really think they coach it up to bend, like you have to be okay sometimes giving up certain things and cover like, hey, that was just a better offensive play. We got to move on. We got to, do whatever. Do you find that it's like that for defenses? Like, hey, like you said, give me one play. If the game's tied 28-28, I just need one play to get our offense. What's that bend, don't break? Like, I don't feel like defensive coaches say that. Like, hey, let's bend, not break.
No, you don't. You don't say it directly ever, but indirectly you do say it a lot. Because again, I don't care if a team, has 800 yards of offense, but they don't score any points. Sweet, or if they score 50 points, but you scored 51. So but now again, you're going to have anxiety forever because you're giving up points and yards. Like that's part of it. And as a defensive coach, I've been doing it long enough to know, like, you are going to give up touchdowns. You are going to give up long runs. You're going to give up big plays. But as long as the score at the end of the day is lower than the opponent, it can be corrected. Right. So you indirectly say it like, don't want to say give up 40 points, but if we're scoring 42 every single game and we're winning 42-40, I'm going to be very frustrated, but I'll sleep a lot better at night knowing we won the game. But there's a lot to that. So, I mean, again, I never say bend but don't break, but I guess I do when I say just give me one more play. Give me one more play, and we'll see what can happen.
Well, because I remember how offensive changed. It was always run, and then it kind of, transformed into, a spread of like they have all these weapons, and then the defense started to adapt, and it's reverting back to kind of run, and because people recruit to stop it, and now they're going back to run. But how the defense kind of evolved was a positive and a negative. Because even back in the day, we gave up 200 yards. That's terrible. Like we're only supposed to give up. And we gave up 14 points. Like, that's terrible. But like you said, now you see where if a team gives up 550 yards, but they only scored 21 points and your offense scored 35 points, I know you look at the paper, it's not like, oh my God, we did give up 500 yards. But hey, they got to the red zone and they never scored. And we blocked a field goal and we did this. So like, it's just weird how defense has kind of, changed into that aspect of it's not okay, but it is okay. Like, hey, we still.
You've got to understand, and I've coached now for at a couple of different places and offensive different philosophies. So when you do play in a spread offense, or your team is a spread offense, and they're going to throw the ball more, you're just naturally going to play more defense. I mean, it is what it is. So the more times an offense has the ball, the more opportunities they are going to have plays. So if you're defending 75 to 80 plays, that's going to be a way different game than if I'm defending 55 to 60.
Right.
And those could be different expectations. Now, if you're going to tell me I'm going to go out and defend 55 plays per game, your expectations can be a lot different. Because again, you're talking a whole quarter worth of offensive plays that I don't have to defend. To where when you're defending 75 to 80 plays, there's just a lot more opportunities. So it is like, again, I know I'm not good enough to go out and defend 80 plays, 80 for 80. Like it's just not going to happen. So you got to be okay with it. And, again, your head coach needs to know that, your offensive coordinator, because at some point in time they do have to marry. Like, what are you doing offensively? What are you doing defensively? Because if you're going to be a spread team and then you're going to just blitz all the time on defense, I mean, there's going to be a lot of plays. There's going to be a lot of negative plays. There's going to be a lot of big plays. So it is what it is. Now, if you're going to be a triple option team, and then, well, okay, so defensively, you're probably going to defend, less plays. So
Right.
now you can't, if you want to play a little more conservatively, knowing, hey, as long as our offense is holding on to the ball for 35, 38 minutes, well, we only got to defend for 22 minutes. Like, we can, play things conservative and just make sure they're chewing up clock, because we know offensively we're going to chew it up. But if you go 3 and out and 30 seconds later and you're going back out there, well, those are different expectations.
Right. Because I'm friends with Nick Davis. He's head coach at Ottawa. He was defense coordinator at Rose-Hulman for a while.
Yep.
He told me that he tells his defense, when he was doing defense, was like, we have to win 9 or 10 plays. If you win 9 or 10 plays in the big moments of like making a play, I think that's how he phrased it, or like, we have to do 9 better plays than the offense. If we do 9 better plays, we are in position to like win this game. So like he was telling, like, you will give up some plays, but when that moment comes and it's 3rd and 8, there's that one play that you make. Yep. There you go. Now you're off the field and you give your offense a chance. They are on the 2-yard line and it's 4th and 2. Like, there's your one play. So now we've won 2 plays, and he like keeps track of like, what's these big plays? You get an interception. There's the play that you won. And it just gives them, the defense, a little more juice of like, hey, like you said, he could tell them like, hey, maybe only have to defend for 25, 30 minutes, but in that time we have to win like these 9 or 10 plays. At some point we got to win them in those moments. And sometimes you won't. It might be 3rd and 8, they convert, but get them to another 3rd and 8 and you try to win that one. And that's how he tracks it. And I loved that. Because when I was at Charleston, my first 2 years, I had to coach defense for the first time. Coach, I tell you, I never lost more sleep than when I was coaching defense. Offense, I sleep well at night. Defense, I was just the assistant guy, like assistant DC. And even then, I'm like, how are we supposed to stop them? How are we supposed to do this? What about this? And this was like, again, 2013, 20, whatever. I'm like, what the heck? And I would just sit there and lose sleep. Then I went back to offense, and I was like, I sleep better at night.
Yeah. When you can dictate some things, and it's, well, what you prep for this? What if they do this? Now, what if they do that? What is like the what if game on the defensive side? You can go down some rabbit holes there.
Well, again, I was young, so it was, of course I did that. I was like, well, this team runs, a version of the wing T option, whatever. And I'm like, but what if they do this? What if they decide to do this? And the head coach will try to say, they're not. If this is what they run, this is what they do. If they throw in some trick play, God bless them. Like if they throw some ring play, God bless them. Same thing like a spread team. I was like, well, we got to defend the pass and the run. What they do is he goes, Steve, they run the ball. They just move you out, so it moves us out. Like he kept you very like grounded. But I always did the what if. I'm like, well, what if this? What if this? And he goes, Steve, what if our player falls down? You could do this all day. Shifting gears a second. College football is a little crazy right now. Name, image, and likeness, transfer portal. I saw Congress is going to allow Division I's to pay players out of that revenue thing. And I've asked some coaches at Eastern, but I'm always curious if it changes. Like, how much does the portal affect like Eastern or FCS or recruiting high school kids? Like, how much is that affected like FCS or Eastern in general? Does it affect it much? Does it stay the same? Because everybody keeps saying high school kids are getting hurt by this. And I said, yeah, but I still know FCS schools still kind of attract high school kids. So how much has that changed in this world?
Yeah, no, it drastically changed. Again, since I'm old and been doing it for 16 years, I mean, the way it was to the way it is now is night and day different. And I definitely feel bad for the high school kid. And it's getting worse. And it's one of those things that probably gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Because the portal, it's wild, and there are no regulations, and there are 2 portal windows. So you do have a roster, what you think you have a roster, and then it changes after the season. And then all of a sudden you think you've got a roster, and then it changes after spring ball. And so then you're in summertime and you think you have a roster, and it's like, well, is it the roster? Is it really what's going to show up, come August? And so you're constantly recruiting, but then sometimes you're not you're still recruiting, but you have no scholarships to give because you don't know. So it's the portal is wild. Name, image, and likeness for us is obviously not a huge thing for us. currently. I mean, I think eventually it will become something. Obviously, I think the big guys, the big schools are dealing with some crazy money.
Right. Yeah.
And that's different. We don't have to deal with that, but the portal obviously it definitely affects us because obviously we lost our running back last year, and who was all conference kid and ends up going to UConn. We lost a corner that went to Michigan State. And so that's going to happen. And it's good. And like I'm sitting here, hey, I can't tell that kid not to take that opportunity because it's a great opportunity. So, but on the flip side, we've been able to actually go to smaller schools and do the same thing. So I'd say like, oh, we're hurt by it, but also we've benefited from it just as much as we probably have. So we're in between to where like we do have the ability to go get an NAIA Division II, even Division III kid that wants to compete at a high level. And so we're able to go grab some of those guys just as much as the big schools come in here and take, our all conference kid. So it's a two-way street. It definitely is work, but it's like I said, the one that gets hurt the most is the high school kid. Because I sit here and say, like last year we took 10 to 12 high school scholarship kids. So we definitely do it because obviously the bigger schools aren't taking as many.
Right.
I think I will say I don't think we'll ever get back. I don't know to the 30 high school classes what they like when I was part. I think my class was 36. Like at the Division I level, I doubt that is. I think it'll probably be more the 15 and less because you can't retool with if you lose a bunch. You just can't go grab high school guys because then all of a sudden you got, a 100-man roster and you can't have 60 freshmen and expect to go compete against somebody that went and grabbed 20 transfers and now they're 20 seniors and all of a sudden you got like that's just not going to work out. 18 versus 22-year-olds that's everybody knows is not what you want.
Right.
But I think we do benefit. We probably do get a higher caliber kid, high school kid to come in. But it's wild, and I really do feel bad for it because, it was so. I remember my recruitment process. I mean, I played Division II football, but it was so much fun, and it was everything was there. The transfers were few.
Yes,
and now that transfer is like it's. I mean, I can't remember 5,000-6,000 right after the season, and it's like
because. I think it was a year or two ago when this started happening. I asked some coaches at the FCS level, and they at the time, and it's changed already within a year or two, they said, oh, if Division I doesn't take this high school kid, that's pretty good, right? Like if they're not taking them, we swoop in like at the FCS level, like, hey, we're still a Division I,
Yep.
But even now, from a year and a half ago, now it's trickling down. And that's what I was fearing at the time was because that's true. Like if an Illinois would have taken this kid at the high school level, but they get a transfer, that's a junior, they're not going to go get that freshman. But then an Eastern can swoop in and be like, well, this kid's a stud and he is a Division I type player. We can get him. But now it's kind of trickling down to FCS. And now you guys have to kind of play the portal game. So now maybe Division II swoop in and say, well, maybe we can get him, but it's just going to keep trickling, I think. And
it is 100%. Because again, I mean, even if we get the kid and like it's still a freshman, 18, he could be a stud. Is he really going to be ready to play? Is he like last year? I think we might have had, we did play a lot of freshmen on special teams, like because of the 4-game rule, which is beautiful rule.
Yeah,
where they can still, but it's still like how many are really ready to compete for 12 games?
Right.
And hold up. And it's not. So again, you can't just take 30 freshmen and have them there or you're going to be playing with them. And
going up against like an Illinois State and stuff, that's going to have, hey, juniors and seniors playing, and you've got, let's say you got 3 defensive lineman freshmen going up against, like that doesn't work.
That's not going to add up. So you have to make sure, like when we lose a kid that, lose a running back, we have to go find a kid that is replacing a lot of production. We lose a corner. We got to find a guy that's going to replace it with a lot of production because that spot we weren't prepared to lose, a junior or a junior corner or a junior running back.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be your junior running back's gone. You have a freshman. Well, you're going to go get another freshman. So now you have 2 freshmen. And it's like, well, you can't be a young roster all the time.
Right. Because I remember when this first started come about, Coach Rodriguez is the O-line coach at Akron. He came on here and he goes, Steve, one of the most stressful times was this spring ball. And I was like, what happened? He goes, I lost 3 O-linemen to the portal during spring ball. And he goes, there's no way I'm plugging in those freshmen, even some of the sophomores, into those spots that are not ready. So he's like, during spring ball, while he was coaching, had to go into the portal and try to recruit quickly to try to replace anything. And he's like, that was some of the most stressful times in a matter of just a couple weeks of like your straight panic of like, these 3 starters just left during spring ball. Like it.
Absolutely.
And I could fix all of this. I know how to fix all of it. You get 1 free transfer. You get a second one if the head coach leaves. And you only get like a window of like 20 days to do it. That's how you fix this. That's how it should be fixed.
They have to have some rule guards, some guardrails, some rules. Like it should, because it is the Wild West. They can leave whenever, twice a year, as many times as they want. And again, I don't blame. Like it is a 2-way street because people will be like, well, the coach can leave. Like, but I don't think that's as wild as like having 4 school. And again, the college experience is getting just completely lost.
Well,
like there's nobody married to the school anymore. It's just like, oh, I'm here. Like, where'd you go to school?
Right.
Well, what year?
Right. Like we said at the beginning, there's a history to Eastern. So it's like, it used to be like, well, I'm going to go play where Jimmy G played. Coach Boo was there. We have guys in the NFL, like stuff like that. And I'm not saying this is happening there, but it's just an example of like, well, you go to Eastern for a year, but then it's like, then the next year you go to Illinois State, then you go here. Well, it's like, where's the pride in the school? Where's the culture? And like you said, transfer stuff is there for a good reason. Family member sick, maybe you'd rather be closer to home and a school there. Like those are good reasons. Now it's just kind of blown up to, let's just, hey, I wasn't playing a lot, so I'll go here. Hey, I'm going to go here because they win. Maybe you didn't win. I have an opportunity to go here. And it's for the wrong reasons. And when I talk to you guys like Division I coaches are awesome. They're like, Steve, it used to be like we had to sell the school. It used to be we had to sell this. Now it's kind of we have to sell. Are we going to win? They ask about name, image, and likeness. And as a coach, you're like, that's not my department. You have to go talk to here. I cannot tell you how much money you can make. And you guys are on campus more too. That's another thing I figured out was different. And the fact you guys have to like re-recruit your guys. So in the season, you almost have to re-recruit them to stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely. Constantly.
You hope you build a good environment where you don't have to do that, but it's still like, it's just crazy. It's crazy to me that all this got put onto you guys as college coaches, like more on your plate that you shouldn't have to deal with. And now it's like roster management type of stuff where it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah, we're dealing with Alabama problems when we're not the same as Alabama. We're like, that's where people like college football gets lumped into the one thing when it's really like there are different tiers. Like the money at the big schools it's very different. It's not the same. And so, but people then want the same expectations, and but it's like, well, hold on. They're like, what we do here is way different than what Michigan is doing. Right. Yes, it's college football, but it's not. It's very different.
Right.
So
I feel so bad for every time I talk to a college coach. I feel so bad. Now you guys take the punches. You're like, we roll with it. We do what we're supposed to do. But I'm like, yeah, but you shouldn't have to do that. You already have to worry about recruiting. But then on top of it, having to re-recruit, then you think you got them, like you said, then June hits and he goes, "Hey, I got an offer from Northern Illinois. I'm going to go there because of whatever." Now you're
Yep.
like, well, all those talks we just had meant nothing, and you feel like you got
Yep.
played, but then you can't hold a grudge because what if that kid wants to come back, and you're kind of like, well,
Yep.
And then I asked the coach, I don't know if you feel this way, if you have a kid as a freshman, then by the time he's a junior is very good, leaves to go to a bigger school. I know you're not frustrated because you're like, it's a good situation for him, but it's like, hey, we developed that kid into what he was. It's got to be a little frustrating of like, good luck, Michigan. You're getting a kid that we developed, which means you're doing your job, you're doing good.
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, it's bittersweet. And now I'll tell you, I've been fortunate to be on the other end of that. I've got two of my former players at Moorhead that play here.
Uh-huh.
That I recruited, I developed, and now because of it and the coaching change and all that kind of stuff, able to get two guys that I had played for me before, I had recruited and had relationships with. Obviously have an opportunity to give them a scholarship here. Like that, it worked out for me that time, but I've lost plenty, specifically when I was at Moorhead, being non-scholarship. I mean, we lost a lot of guys, like, oh, I can't afford it. I'm going to, whether go down Division II, get a scholarship or go on to FCS, like it happened all the time. So it is, like you said, you just want to be who you are and be authentic and be a good person and just hope it is what it is and the world's going to take care of itself. But there's a lot of things you can't control. But if you do things the right way, I feel that it all works itself out in the end anyways.
Right. And sometimes you have to sit with the kid, I guess, and tell them, hey, if this is what you want to do, but understand you're a good starter here. If you go there, they're telling you this, it may not.
I mean, we say that all the time. And again, like, what do you want out of your college experience?
Yes.
And I'll never forget, this was before I was here. I had a linebacker that played for me at Moorhead and was a first team all conference kid. And the portal came open and I point blank told him, I'm like, here's the thing, like, you're a first team all conference kid here. You're solidified here. You're a borderline first team, all American, like here. You've done it. Now, if you leave here and you go to an FBS school and you play 20 snaps a game, there's no NFL chance. Zero. Right. They'll know what you are. Now you come back, you're a two-time first team all conference kid. You're a conference player of the year caliber kid. Teams will be intrigued and you'll get a flyer. But if you go and it doesn't work out, your dream might be over before it even got started. And so it's, and you try to be honest with them. And again, whether they want to take it that way or not, it goes both ways. And again, like I said, be honest, be open, and it is what it is.
Yeah. I'm hoping you're right. It gets better before it gets worse. And I think it will. Once it gets to a point, it has to get to a point where they go, this is enough. Like, enough's enough.
Yeah.
Well, I've said this. Nick Saban just needs to take over, and it will get fixed. It'll get fixed.
For sure.
Coach, before I let you go, I apologize for the Alabama stuff because you guys play them this year.
You sure do.
I'm just a coach fan. So when I was young, even before Nick Saban got to Alabama, I liked him. So I just kind of do it to piss people off. Like, there's the Alabama stuff, but I'm a coach fan. So I like a lot of places. And of course, I have the Illinois one because I grew up 20 minutes from campus. So I have to have that.
Yep.
But don't worry, Wilkerson sent me the Eastern stuff. Like, it's all good.
There you go.
It's all good. Coach, I appreciate you coming on here so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you having me on.
And